1,000 days ago, I created this insane ecosystem, housing all different forms of life, with animals and especially plants duking it out for survival. First, though, it's best we probably start off at the beginning. The year was 2021, and I was just starting to learn how to build ecosystems in Terrarium. Here are a few from that time period, pretty decent if I do say so myself, but for the most part, they were all missing good quintessential backgrounds. That was until this terrarium, which I started making a false background like the ones seen in zoos. Using expanding foam and sealant, I was able to create my first hard background terrarium, which currently is sitting right here in my room, not being used at all. Video coming on this soon. Anyway, this was the beginning inspiration for this project and is how I got started. Now, unfortunately, 3 years ago, I wasn't the best at filming and actually lost the footage of me building the background. Thankfully, I have the footage from the ecosystem you previously saw, which I'll show to you all right now. And it's a very simple process. You spray expanding foam where you want your background, carve it up to the right shape, then you're going to get quick colors and mix it with your sealant and paint it onto the carving expanded foam. You want to make sure you do layers. I like to start with a good heavy base coat and then progressively get lighter in my color until I get something that kind of looks like this. As you can see, this is the first rendition of this ecosystem with it having a complete false bottom, dirt, and a moss carpet. Unfortunately, like I said, I lost all the footage, so all I've got is this slideshow of pictures, and this is pretty much how the terrarium sat for about 2 months because I wanted to let the background weather in, and I made sure to water it and spray water and all of that on it. And then it was finally time for the next phase. Now it was time to do some true hardscaping. As the ecosystem sat, it was pretty much a mossarium, and it was literally just a plain moss wall. And did not look like the section of jungle at all. And changing this up was vital, and it began with the addition of some basic huts to break up the plainscape. And inside of these huts, I added petri dishes, which were added for future inhabitants that I had picking down the line. A thick branch was also added in one corner to kind of stimulate the canopy, blocking a significant portion of the terrarium from light. And plenty of plants were added, changing the landscape from this barren mossland to a stunning young growth jungle. Within it, plenty of red, pinks, and vibrant greens could be seen, popping from the gray cave wall background. At this stage, there were very few inhabitants, with it mainly being springtails and a few scattered isopods. The next stage, however, completely changed this, and it's pretty much the most active stage. This is the stage I like to call the establishment jungle phase, as all the plants are establishing themselves like a real forest, competing. And this is also when I added leaf litter, acting as if the plants in the canopy had gotten old enough to drop leaves. The time period between this stage and stage 2 was about a month, and the establishment phase is the longest that this ecosystem has had. So get ready to see a lot, starting off with the amazing beginner organisms that help to keep this system running. Obviously, the many springtails and isopods that have been keeping the tank clean previously, but in addition, millipedes were also added. We had stone millipedes, bumba millipedes, and scarlet millipedes being the insects of choice. Unfortunately, in this establishment phase where competition is high, the trio of scarlet millipedes didn't make it and have yet to be seen within the entire 1,000 day period of this ecosystem. Besides small insects like these millipedes, larger animals also showed themselves in the form of amphibians. Early in the establishment phase, a small southern toad baby somehow managed to sneak in and began living in the ecosystem starting in November. I took pity on him and began feeding him throughout the course of this phase to ensure he didn't die. Alongside our unexpected visitor, African walking frogs, an amazing and truly stunning amphibian, were added by me into this ecosystem. These were added in June of 2022 compared to the little southern toad who somehow found his way in during 2021. Throughout this entire establishment phase, plants had been dying off, some of them regrowing and others decomposing. The leaf litter was also rapidly disappearing and being replaced by me. This phase of life and death struggle between organisms continued for close to about a year and a half, before the ecosystem evolved into the form it is today. This is the last phase and the healthiest the ecosystem has ever been. plants that have been able to adapt the best have survived and thrived in this ecosystem, and the animals have either been removed, like in the case of the southern toad when he became too large, or unfortunately died off, like the walking frogs. The core base of the population is still alive and doing well. However, like all ecosystems, there are peaks and lows, and the population level has fluctuated. Currently, it's kind of on a low, and there's not too much to be seen, but it's still doing pretty well. And now that leads me into my next point, which I think it's time for the next phase. We're going to be trying to push it back into the establishment phase, slowly starting by adding a couple little shoots of new growth. These shoots of new growth I've recently added, and I think they do a nice addition at bringing back kind of the establishment phase and going to create some of that competition and decomposition within the plants and really revitalize the entire ecosystem. And so this is how it's sitting right now. Obviously, as you all saw, I added some new plants like that and that. But for the most part, the terrarium is doing its thing and growing in rather nicely. I mean, obviously there's some problems with like mold and stuff, but that's obviously all terrariums are going to have that over time, especially if one that's been going this long with very minimal care. I don't spray or mist this. Only time I spray or mist it is when I take this lid off, and obviously some of that moisture evaporates. But for the most part, this is a completely self-sustaining terrarium that's just been doing its own thing. Now, recently, what I did do that may throw off the balance of stuff is I added like 2 shots of this plant grow in here. And so that may be why we're having some mold problems now, obviously. But there is a cleanup crew in here. So over time, this should sort itself out. I can't lift that one all the way. There's plants right behind it. If I stick you all in here, you should be able to see on that roof and stuff, there is a cleanup crew in here that is pretty substantial. So given enough time, this mold and stuff should sort itself out. If not, obviously I'll add some more springtails and, more cleanup crew, because we've already broken the seal on this tank, obviously. And so there's no need to just keep it going without any assistance if it looks like it's starting to die off. But I'm going to give it a week or two. This mold should clear up. I'm going to go ahead and disturb this little bit right here, though. Yep. Go ahead and destroy what little bits of mold there are that I can visibly see. So yeah, that's how this terrarium is doing after a total of 3 years. I am looking to maybe get another species to add into it. I've been thinking about a species of millipede, or maybe some, I don't know. I really want some more amphibians. I missed the walking frogs that you obviously saw in the beginning of the video before they died. So I'm either thinking we get a species of toad, because obviously that little toad was doing very well in here. We can try some walking frogs again, or maybe some poison dart frogs. Drop what species you think I should try, even if they're not the ones I listed. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.